So I grew up with a father that had alcohol issues. He had a drinking problem. My dad was very sweet. He was very kind, but it was almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of situation. And then when he would be drinking, it would be like he's just a different person completely. Am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive my husband? Long story short, my husband was psychologically and physically abusive, not black eye every time type of physical abuse, more like push, shove, throw on the ground. That is an instant deal breaker for me, ladies and gentlemen. Any kind of abuse in the relationship, just say no and move on, get out. That's it. Story's over. Let's continue just to see what else this guy did. So he's been physically and psychologically abusive to me for many years. He also got addicted to meth after we lost our second baby in childbirth and cheated on me while I was pregnant with our next and long thereafter. Wow. This guy sounds like a walking red flag. We could end the video right here. There's no need for her to stick around. Girl, move on, run like the wind. He eventually got clean and came out with the truth that he's been cheating on her for a long time, but only snippets, and kept lying about a lot of stuff because he said he was ashamed of everything he did. I eventually left. Good for you. Fast forward to now, he blames me for the breakdown of our marriage because I won't forgive him. Let me get the violin. He always knew cheating was a deal breaker for me, but he claims the drugs messed with his head and he'd never do that to me sober. Ooh, the meth did it, yeah. The fact that he was with another or even multiple partners while we were married breaks me. We've been monogamous and it's always been a big deal for me sharing sex and intimacy with only my partner. He shared the same values until his drug use started. And on top of that, he beat her and abused her and did all kinds of things. Now we're getting a divorce. The kids are suffering because they love us both and want us together, and my husband blames me for ruining their lives and our future because he changed and got clean. Yet I refuse to give him a second chance. Do not give him a second chance. He's proven time and time again. You don't come back from that. You just don't. I forgave him for so many things, and it honestly feels like he put me through everything because I showed him I would stay through anything. And the more you show that you will stay for it, the more he'll put you through. And he might relapse at any time as well. I can't help that I have hurt because of his infidelity. No matter how many times I tell myself it has nothing to do with me, the hurt is still there. And the thought of what he did makes me sick. Me too. I'm extremely proud of him for getting clean and becoming a better person, but why does that mean I have to just get over it? The hurt he caused me as well. Him changing doesn't instantly heal my hurt or erase the trauma he gave me with everything he put me through over the years. I agree. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving him and giving him another chance? Even his family hates me for leaving and says I'm in the wrong for not seeing how much it took for him to get clean and change. Well, let the mother deal with him then. Let him move in with his mom and dad, the precious son, right? But again, I do recognize this and I'm proud of him. But what about me and the trauma and hurt I'm left with after what he did? That didn't just disappear the day he got clean. Am I the a-hole? Okay, before we dive into the comments, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? I mean, addiction is a terrible thing. That's not to be discounted. It turns people into monsters. And maybe if he wasn't on drugs, he would never have cheated or did the things he did. But they happened, right? It doesn't erase it just because he wasn't sober or he was on drugs or he was drunk. It doesn't erase his actions. What do you guys think? I'm sure some of you out there have either known somebody that went through a similar thing, or you've gone through a similar thing, or you've had a partner that was addicted. Let me know in the comments, and please subscribe if you're not. That would really help out. I'm dying to hear from you. What do you guys think? Let's engage. I'll answer your comments. So right now we're gonna dive in and see what the actual comments are on his post. It's a pretty popular post. So NTA, honestly, not the a-hole. Even though his body may be clean and sober, his attitude is showing he still has the mind of an addict because he's trying to gaslight her. He's like, telling everybody she won't forgive me, she's ruining the family, blah, blah, blah. While clearly he is the issue, right? And he's trying to kind of guilt her into this. How did he get clean? I asked because any step program he would have worked through to become clean should have included a substantial amount of therapy, teaching him how to take responsibility for the things he did on drugs, make an inventory, and requiring him to then go and make amends to everyone he wronged. And it seems like he's just not accepting responsibility. He's like, that was a different me. I'm changed now. Please accept me. Please forgive me. It does not sound like he is holding to any of that. You could get some counseling from a therapist skilled in treating codependents like yourself, saying that she's codependent in this. People who were close to and abused by an addict. They could help you see this clearly, his narcissism and failure to work the steps of recovery. But no, this is not your job to do. He is not yet on a path where you or anyone else can successfully join him. Ooh, I mean, I 100% agree with this. This is so well said, right? This person is clearly coming from a deep understanding of addiction and people who are addicted. So this person quotes her, and the question is, was this before the addiction? Was he psychologically and physically abusive before the addiction? This man is a black hole. Get you and the kids out and don't look back. You owe him nothing. NTA, not the a-hole. You are not going to get the validation you need from him or his family, but what you're doing is okay. Seems like she just wants closure, right? Also, look out for your kids. Not to be a downer, but your first time getting clean is usually your first of many times getting clean. To be realistic, most people cannot maintain sobriety on the first attempt. Make sure your kids are never the target if he slips. Anger does not come from drugs alone. Interesting. Hard NTA, not the a-hole. He's blaming you for not forgiving him, but if he didn't do things that need forgiving, you wouldn't be in this situation. Also, you don't have to forgive him. It sounds like you've given more grace than he deserves. NTA, 100%. Not the a-hole. If you aren't already, and if your kids aren't already, get into therapy. Him being a drug addict can be a reason for his behavior, but it doesn't excuse his behavior. The fact that he's still being this toxic and manipulative shows that it wasn't just the drugs. It's him. He's controlling, manipulative, abusive, egotistical. He's mad because you left him and he can't control, abuse you anymore. If he really cared about you and your kids, then he would be doing everything he could to make the transition easier and smoother. He should be focusing on his sobriety and your kids, not your marriage. That's over and done with. It should have been over and done with the first time he raised his hands and voice at you. See if you can get it so you only need to communicate with him through a parenting app and block his family. You don't need to deal with them anymore. He can deal with them and communicate anything about his kids with them. Wow, that's a long comment. Get yourself some time, distance, and peace. You deserve that. Your kids may be upset with the changes now, but in the future, it will be easier for them to see that you are doing the right thing. Every time he raised his voice or fist at you, you gave him a second chance. He doesn't need or deserve a fifth or sixth chance just because he finally decided to get sober. Now, while reading this story and kind of empathizing with this individual, I thought about whether I should share my own story or not. So I grew up with a father that had alcohol issues. He had a drinking problem. My dad was very sweet. He was very kind, but it was almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of situation where when he wasn't drinking for months at a time, he was the sweetest guy. He'd bring flowers to my mom. He would just be the most attentive dad and just the best person ever, right? He was just the best dad. And then when he would be drinking, it would be like he's just a different person completely. And he'd be hiding alcohol around the house. He'd be stumbling, mumbling. I'd find him passed out somewhere on the couch or the stairs. I'd have to help him up. Luckily, he was the kind of drunk that he was never a mean drunk. He never, ever, ever laid a hand on me or my mom or my stepmom eventually when he remarried, right? When I was 16. So he was always like a happy kind of drunk where if anything when he's drunk he'd want to hug me like a million times, right? Until the point where I'd be like, Dad, get out, stop hugging me, right? And tell you he loves you, and he'd be that kind of drunk, right? So he would never, ever, ever be abusive or lay a hand, but it took a toll. It took a toll on my mom because sometimes he'd be gone for days on a bender, right? We wouldn't know where he was. And then eventually, when he remarried and married my stepmom, he wouldn't be out as much anymore for days, but he would be drunk at home. And if we took away his booze or found his booze, he would try to find it back again. He would try to go buy more. He would ask me to buy him booze. And then as he got older and into his 50s, he started developing heart issues. And I believe it was because of his drinking and smoking throughout his whole life. And he would get drunk, and then you could tell he's visibly not feeling well, and he'd be clutching his heart. And we'd be like, Dad, are you okay? Are you okay? And then he'd have his heart medicine and he'd feel better. But it was just such a stressful kind of, imagine as a child. Like, I'd be in my 20s by this point, but it's scary when your parent is going through that. And then in 2012, my father passed away suddenly due to a heart attack. It was a big shock for everybody. You can just imagine. I won't get into that, but it was just crazy. And I really attribute that to his drinking. So in a way, this story actually touched me without even, I didn't even think about that it would, but it's been cathartic for me to share this kind of story with you. And personally, I grew up also from maybe 16, 17, trying alcohol with my dad for the first time. He'd give me beers, he'd let me have cigarettes, and kind of just allow this. Of course, he'd be like, you have to quit, blah, blah, blah. But like, I grew up drinking in my teens and early 20s. So it was just like going out with friends and getting drunk. And then when I lived in South Korea for almost 8 years, I was a teacher in my 20s and early 30s. In South Korea, the drinking culture is crazy. It's wild. They don't have a last call. You can drink until the morning. It's not healthy by any means. So when I came back to Canada, actually, and I met my wife, it's almost 6 years now, I stopped drinking. My wife barely drinks any alcohol, and I would take breaks even in Korea for a few weeks or a month here and there, but it was just, I stopped and it felt great and that was really good. Now, I did not have a drinking problem. I truly believe I didn't. I was a social drinker, but I would hate the hangovers and I would hate just feeling like shit the other day and vomiting sometimes, and it was just like, I really hated that. And now it's been 5 years and I just feel amazing. And all my friends know I don't drink. I go to parties if I have to. I'll go out, I'll be whatever. I'll drink my ginger ale. I love non-alcoholic beer, right? Like 0% beer. It tastes the same to me. I can't really tell the difference. I just don't feel a buzz, right? So I'm almost thankful to my dad that I've seen that growing up, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be that kind of person. And I'm also grateful it didn't have a hold on me. You know, he couldn't let go of it fully. It had a strangle on him, where for me, it's like I can be around alcohol and I just don't crave it. I just don't want, it's not like I'm sober another day. Like, I don't think of it like that. It just doesn't exist for me. It doesn't, as a food group, alcohol just doesn't exist for me. And my wife can have a glass of wine once in a while, totally fine. We don't buy booze. Maybe that's what helps. Our relationship is not built around alcohol. But if you have a problem with drinking, then you could obviously seek help. That's important. Depends how bad it is and stuff. And try to take a month off if you can, not drinking, and then see if you could push it to another month. I know Tom Holland, the guy that plays Spider-Man, he admitted to having a drinking problem, and then he said he did a dry January, right? And then it kind of went longer and longer, and now he doesn't drink. So if you could do that, but the main thing I want to stress is that if you're going to do that, you have to eliminate, for the first little while, having it around the house, right? You don't want like a cabinet full of liquor or beer in the fridge and that you're always tempted. Our self-control is not as strong, right? Our discipline is not as strong as removing it from our environment. So not having it in the house, and obviously, like, I've had relationships where everything is based around alcohol. Every date we drink, every whatever night when we Netflix and chill, we drink. So if you're in that kind of relationship, that will be an issue as well. But like when I met my wife, she's just not a drinker. It's not in her kind of upbringing, or it's not a thing, right? So anyways, Guys, let me know how this was for you, and if you liked me opening up and kind of appreciated that. Please drop me a comment if you're in a similar situation as this lady in the story, or if you've gone through addiction or had a parent or sibling or a friend go through addiction or alcoholism like my dad did and I opened up. Please subscribe, please drop a comment. Much love. I love doing this, and I'm really excited about sharing these stories with people and sharing my own stories. Take care. T. Spillington out. Peace.